Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Izzy Cinema Escape on YouTube. I am your host, Izzy. Anyone who is new to the channel, just happen to find it through their search engine on YouTube, feel free to hit the subscribe button if you're new to it, and feel free to spread the word if you like. Anyone who isn't new, thank you for continuing to spread the word about my channel, and I hope you continue to enjoy my work. Having said that, today's review is based off the guilty pleasure horror film that is part of a very popular franchise. This is Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers, that is a direct sequel to Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. This sequel in particular is very much different compared to the previous Halloweens, where you have the original, the second Halloween, and Halloween Season of the Witch. The interesting thing is about the Halloween franchise is that when you compare it with the Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street, even Hellraiser franchise, those particular films have a certain supernatural element that allow for the main characters to continually return. Whereas with Halloween, after the less than subpar receiving of Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, they had to find a way to bring Michael back, seeing as Michael is the central iconic figure of the franchise. And considering how, when you look at it from a thematic perspective, Michael, compared to Jason, Freddy, Pinhead, is human. And even Leatherface is human. So they had to find a way to bring Michael back in such a fashion that was, I guess, similar to those particular characters. When I say characters, I mean Jason, Freddy, and Pinhead. Whereas, you know, with Michael, it was very hard to just simply say, oh, well, he's back. So they had to introduce some form of supernatural element in order for him to return. In the fifth film, it starts to more or less go into the exposition of how Michael is able to return due to the fact that he is possessed by this evil cult known as Thorn, and because he's possessed, it's what's driving him to commit these horrific acts. With that being said, the fifth film follows after the climax of the fourth film, which I think would have been amazing if they just if they actually followed that particular premise. And this is going to be a major spoiler, so anyone who hasn't watched the fourth film, let me go ahead and just let you know. This is a spoiler, so I'm going to give you guys a few seconds to go ahead and venture out to, you know, do whatever it is that you need to do, and I'm going to pause for a few seconds, and then afterwards I'm going to go ahead and get into the kind of a brief synopsis of what happened. Okay, assuming that you guys have ventured off and did whatever you needed to do, the spoiler for the fourth film ended with Michael's niece Jamie being possessed by the spirit of Michael, and the way the film ended was very similar to how the first film began, with Michael wearing the clown suit and killing his sister. Whereas in the fourth film, Jamie, his niece, becomes possessed wearing a very similar clown suit to her uncle and mortally wounding her mother. And had they went in that direction, I think the sequels, that would have been so much more interesting and unique compared to what we received in the process. But the sequels for Halloween is more or less a guilty pleasure. The fifth film has Jamie committed to an asylum and is, well, mute to an extent, and shares a telepathic bond with her uncle. And because of the telepathic bond, she is able to sense, well, more or less sense, see, feel whatever it is that he's about to do. And all that evil is Danielle Harris does an amazing job. For a child actress of her age, at that point in time of her career, she does an amazing job of being able to capture that sense of fear. Donald Pleasence makes his return with Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. And for all intents and purposes, every single Halloween, we have the first Halloween, the second Halloween, Season of the Witch, Return of Michael Myers, and Revenge of Michael Myers, even The Curse of Michael Myers. The films that feature Michael Myers in a prominent role follow a very similar premise. And it's all about Michael being the central forefront, while also still trying to maintain a sense of, I guess, one thing I can say about the films overall is that, at least for as much of a guilty pleasure as they are, they attempted to maintain some semblance of a story that manages to hold your attention. Whereas with Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, and even Hellraiser, it was simply all about just how many more creative ways that we could find the antagonist to torture or murder his victims, compared to where Michael, while there are some creative kills, it is simply about trying to maintain a story. And I will say, I will give them credit for that. They at least attempted to present a story that was going to provide some prominent interest for the audience. With Halloween 5, I have to say, I did enjoy it for what it is. If you're able to separate the first two films and put it in its own category, it's a true 5 out of 5 experience, just because it is a guilty pleasure. I don't think you're going and expecting anything that's going to be remotely even close to what the first two films presented as far as the horror capabilities are concerned. But I did enjoy it. It's very fun. It's exciting. It's still intense. Donald Pleasence, I'm not another thing that I could say. If you take Donald Pleasence out of the sequels, these films are nowhere near as good or even watchable from my perspective. He brings a certain sense of raw energy and talent to the franchise that he is still, the character of Dr. Loomis is literally the perfect foil to the character of Michael Myers. They complement each other so well in the fashion that it is a dichotomy of a good versus evil type of mentality, where you have the Doctor who is attempted to eradicate this evil and hold such contempt for it that he is willing to do anything and everything possible, even putting his life on the line in order to remove this evil, and still never giving up. It is literally the perfect foil to one another. You have this unstoppable force of nature. And another thing I will point out, that's another thing that makes the sequels, it's interesting and yet less interesting, because when you have a character like Michael, with the first two films, you're not exactly sure why it is the way he is. It's not so clear cut in the form of he's possessed. He's literally a force of nature. He just exists. He's the shape. With the sequels, as I mentioned, they had to keep the cash cow flowing some kind of way, so they had him be possessed. And by having him be possessed, it gives him a reason for why it is, and it develops him more into a sympathetic figure rather than simply being afraid of him. Whereas, if you think about it, if you took the curse away, it's just one of those things where, okay, well, if he's not cursed anymore, then most likely he will just be a regular human and feel remorse for his actions. But through it all, it's still one of those type of films where I could still watch it over and over again and never get tired of it. And I do believe that has more to do with Donald Pleasence being involved into the concept of Halloween, and also the fact that they still attempted to maintain some sense of true originality and homage to the previous franchise, the previous films before. Overall, Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers, it still has that same memorable, magical Halloween touch. Something that you could definitely watch whenever you want to. Obviously, you prefer to watch it on Halloween just because. Why not? Still has iconic music. One of the coolest things about the Halloween sequels is the fact that they still managed to find a way to have Michael still be creepy while not showing his eyes. Again, the most prominent feature of Michael Myers, when you think back to Dr. Loomis' speech in the first film, is how he has the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. And the fact that you don't see his eyes is what makes the boogeyman so monumentally creepy from a cinematic and thematic perspective. But Halloween 5, still a watchable film. I really love the fact that they still managed to find a way to have a story that was going to captivate the audience and still hold your attention. I love the fact that Danielle Harris does an amazing job by capturing a child that has a telepathic bond with pure evil incarnate. The Thorn concept is still very interesting, and there's a very cool cliffhanger that bridges the gap into the sixth film, The Curse of Michael Myers. I do recommend it. It's not the greatest horror film ever made, and I don't think that was intended for it forever to be made in that fashion. But it's still fun, exciting. There's some creepy moments here and there, and I found it highly enjoyable. Final score, maybe about a 3 out of 5, 4 out of 5, somewhere up in there. I'm able to separate it from the first two films instead of just simply trying to hold it at such an unrealistic category. 3 out of 5, 4 out of 5, somewhere up in there maybe. That is my review of Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Provide a like if you want to, and provide a comment on my Facebook page and my YouTube page if you want. That is my review. I hope you guys continue to remain safe and healthy, and you'll be hearing from me again. Take care, and peace out.